Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a cookie clicker game in Scratch for beginners. And I am going to teach you how all of the coding that we are going to be using works, and giving you example situations to help you understand so you can actually learn something from this tutorial. Now this is the beginner tutorial. I am making an intermediate tutorial and an advanced tutorial. But you should watch this one first, because the coding in those two tutorials come directly from this one. Okay, so to get started, I have made all of the assets that you will need for your cookie clicker game, so you can get to those by going to the link in the description. It will take you to this project, and then you want to click this button that says Remix. And then once you remix the project, it will let you see all of the assets that I have created for you, so you can use the exact same images as I am in this tutorial. Okay, so first, if this is your first time using Scratch, let me first explain to you how the program works. So, over here in this top right corner, we have the stage. This is where your project will run. You can press this green flag button, and any code that you've created will run. Then you can just press this red stop sign to stop the project. And up here, it has the full screen button if you want to make your project bigger. Then right over here below the stage is the sprites panel. The sprites are all of the objects that you'll use in your game. So you can see we have one sprite for the cookie, we have one sprite for the shop, and we have sprites for the buttons for upgrades. You can ignore these three sprites, but we won't use these until the advanced tutorial. And whenever you click on a sprite, it will highlight it in purple. This shows that you're selecting that sprite. Above where you can select the sprites, it has all of the information about that sprite. You can change the sprite's name. This one is called Cookie. It has the X and Y coordinates of the sprite, which is where it is on the screen. You might know how X and Y coordinates work from math class. 0, 0 is of course in the center of the stage. Right here, it has if the sprite is visible or hidden. You can press these buttons to show and hide it. It has the size of the sprite. Right now I set it to 75% size. If you want, you can change that size to a different number to see how it works. So if I type in 100 and press enter, it'll make the cookie to 100% of its size, but I'm going to keep it at 75%. And then this is the direction the sprite is facing. If you click on that, you can see you can rotate this wheel around to change the direction. But we won't use the direction for anything right now, so leave it as 90. Now, you might be wondering, to make a new sprite, you can go to this button down here that looks like a cat, hover over it, and click Choose a Sprite, and it will open up all of the sprites that Scratch has already made default for you. But if you want to use your own images, you can press this Paint button here, and it will make a new sprite and open up the costume editor. The costume editor has all these tools, like you can see a paintbrush. You can change the color that you would like to use, and so you can draw whatever you want. Then it has an eraser, so you can erase parts. It has a fill bucket, so you can fill in the sprites you made. It has a text tool, so you can type in words. You can make straight lines and change the thickness of the line using this. A helpful tip, if you hold in the Shift key on your computer, you can draw perfectly straight lines, to perfect diagonals, or perfect vertical lines. This is the circle tool. You can use it, you can have a different fill color to make it a filled circle, or you can press this button right here to make it so the circle is transparent, and just with the line, if you hold in the Shift key, you can draw perfect circles. Then finally, we have the rectangle tool. The rectangle tool can be used to draw rectangles. You can change the fill color, just like with the circles, and you can hold in the Shift key to draw perfect squares. Now, you might have noticed I didn't mention this tool. We are not going to use this tool for anything at the beginner level. It is advanced, but basically if you want to know what it does, it makes it so you can add different points to your shape. So like I can change this oval, add another point, and bring it in, and it'll change the shape. You can change the points from curved to pointed if you want. So you can just use that to make more advanced shapes. Now, each sprite has different costumes, and you can see the costumes by clicking on the Costumes button up here. Then, over on the left, it will display the list of all of the costumes. You can rename them, and you can add new costumes, either from the costume library, or you can paint a costume, just like we did before. You can see you can change it between the costumes. This is useful if your sprite has different animations. You can switch between costumes, and each costume would be like one frame of the animation. Or you can upload an image from your computer and use that as a costume. Then, once you're done editing costumes, you can click back over to the Code tab and start coding your sprites to do different things. Let's just delete this sprite we made, because it will not need it for the game. Now let's explain how the coding works. So when you're in the Code tab, you can create code for each sprite. So there are 9 different categories of blocks: motion, looks, sound, events, control, sensing, operators, variables, and my blocks. You'll notice each of the categories has its own color, so you can easily identify which category a block would be in based off of its color. This will be useful if you don't know where a block I'm showing you how to use is. Let's just start off by detecting when the player clicks on the cookie. So make sure you have selected the cookie sprite in the sprites panel. Then you want to go over to the blocks, click on the events category, and you will see this block when this sprite clicked. You can drag the block into the workspace over here, and then any code that is under this block will run whenever the player clicks on the cookie. So for example, let's just go to the looks category, and let's make the cookie change size by 10. So the cookie will get slightly bigger when you click on it. So let's just try that. There, it works. Whenever you click on the cookie, it gets bigger. I'm just going to change the size back down to 75. But we don't want the cookie to just get bigger. We want to get cookies that you can use to buy upgrades. So, we need a way to store the amount of cookies that the player has, and we can do that with what's called a variable. So, what a variable is it contains a value, any value that you put inside of it. So this could be a number, it could be some text, or it could be a mix of the two. The thing about variables is that they remember the information you put inside of it. So if we make a variable called cookies and tell it that the player has 10 cookies, then the next time we use the cookies variable, the variable will go and say, oh, the player has 10 cookies. So, if we click over to the variables blocks, you can see I have already made a bunch of variables that we will need for our game. So, we can use this change block to change the number inside of a variable by a certain amount. In this case, you can click on this drop down and select cookies because we want to make it so the player gets cookies when you click. So then, over here in the variables tab, right next to where it has this round block that says cookies, it has a little checkbox. If you click this checkbox, it will make the cookies variable show up on the stage. So you can drag this right above the cookie so you can see how many cookies you have. So now, whenever we click on it, you can see the number goes up by 1. Alright, this is good. But you may notice that your cookies will always stay the same. They never reset when you restart the game. So we need to make sure that whenever a new player joins the game, that their cookies will be 0, and they won't start with 20 cookies, because that wouldn't make sense. So if we go back to the Events tab, we can drag out this when green flag clicked block. You'll notice it doesn't connect onto this code we already have, because it is an event block. Event blocks have this little bump at the top of them, as opposed to other blocks that have this little dip. So you can see the blocks that have the dip can go under any blocks, but blocks that have the bump at the top are always at the top of a stack of code. So we can drag out this when green flag clicked block, and any code that we put under this block will run when the player clicks the green flag. So let's just make sure the cookie doesn't accidentally get dragged around. You'll notice normal players can't drag it around, but when you're working on your games you can drag your sprites around. But we want to reset the position of the cookie. So we can go to the motion tab, and there's this block, go to X, Y, and we want to make them so they both say 0. So now you'll see if you accidentally drag the cookie around, you can click the green flag and it will go back to its normal position. And just to be safe, if it accidentally changed the size, we can also go to looks and put a set size block. And I'm just going to set it to 75%, but you can set the size to whatever number you would like. And finally, we're going to go back to the variables tab and grab the set variable to block. Make sure it's not the change variable, the set variable, and we're going to set cookies to 0. So now, whenever you click the green flag, your cookies will go back to 0, and you can start playing the game. So now that we have a cookie that you can click, why don't we add upgrades to make the game more fun? So we're going to go over in the Sprites panel and click on the Auto Clicker button sprite. So you'll notice that right now, the Auto Clicker button is hidden. You can click on the Show button to show it, and then you'll see, here it is. But it's a little bit too big for the shop right now, so let's just change the size down to 75%. There, now it'll fit nicely. You can drag it over to the top of the shop, just like this. And there we go. Now we need to code this button so that if you have enough cookies, then you will be able to buy the auto clicker upgrade. So let's go back to the Events tab and drag out a when green flag clicked block. Then let's go to Motion, make sure it resets its position, and you'll notice that the go-to block already fills in the position that it's currently in. So if this is the position we want it to start in, then you can go ahead and drag it out. Otherwise, drag your auto clicker button to where you want it to be when the player starts the game, and then drag out this block. I'm actually going to set it to 165.88 because then it fits perfectly. And we need to make sure the size is at 75%, so you can drag out the set size block. And at the start of the game, we want this auto clicker to cost 10 cookies. So we can go to the variables tab, and you'll see I made an auto clicker price variable for you. You can drag out a set auto clicker price block, and we're going to change it from 0 to 10. So now at the start of the game, auto clickers will cost 10 cookies. Now let's make it so if you have 10 or more cookies and you try and buy the auto clicker, then you will get this +1 cookies per second boost. So every second you'll gain 1 cookie. So we can go to the events tab. Let's drag out another when this sprite clicked block. And now we need to use what's called an if statement. So we can go to the control tab and drag this if block. Now you'll see this block doesn't look like the other ones. It's kind of like a C shape. So what this is you can drag blocks inside of it as well as underneath it. So what an if statement is, let's give an example. So an if statement you might use is you check the weather outside, and then if it is raining outside, you grab an umbrella. But if it is sunny, then you don't grab an umbrella. So to check if it's raining outside, we would use an operators block, and we would use this equals block here. Then if we have a variable called isRaining, you can drag that out into the first half, and in the second half, let's say if isRaining equals yes, then if raining is equal to yes, it'll run any code that's inside of this block. So in this case, if it's raining, we would grab an umbrella. But if it's not raining, if raining is not equal to yes, so if raining would be no, that means it's sunny outside, so we will not grab this umbrella. So that's basically how if statements work. But, so what we want to do, we don't want to check if the cookies is equal to 10, we want to check if the cookies is greater than 10. So, we can go to the operators, and you'll get this block that has the greater than sign, and then in the first half, we would go to the variables, drag out our round cookie variable, so now this will equal this, instead of being cookies, this will be how many cookies the player has. So if we have 5 cookies, then this right here will be 5. And then we want to see if it's greater than the auto clicker price. If it's greater than the auto clicker price, then we will buy an auto clicker. Let's take away the cookies. We can change the cookies, go to the operators, grab out this minus block, and we want to put 0 minus auto clicker price. So then it will subtract the price of the auto clicker from the player's total cookies. Okay, so let's try this out. Let's get some cookies. And then let's click on the auto clicker button, and you'll see it subtracts 10 from our total cookies. But you'll notice, if you have exactly 10 cookies, nothing happens. Now, you might be wondering why this is, and that's because there's actually an error in our code. Now, it's very normal to have errors in your code, but you have to learn how to recognize those errors and then how to fix them. So let's take a look at our code. What could be wrong here? Oh, here it is. We're checking if the cookies is greater than the auto clicker price, not if the cookies is greater than or equal to. So if we're just checking if it's greater than, and 10 is not greater than 10, it is equal to 10. So the way we can check this is we can actually go grab another minus block, put the auto clicker price into the first half, and then just subtract 1 from it. So now, if auto clicker price is 10, then we'll be seeing if cookies is greater than 9, not if cookies is greater than 10. So if we do have 10 cookies, which is the price, 10 is greater than 9, so it will let us buy it. So now let's check. We have 10 cookies, let's click on it, and there we go, it did work. But we didn't actually get anything. Let's fix that. So we have this other variable called CPS, which stands for cookies per second, and the auto clicker gives +1 cookies per second. So we can grab a change block, put it under the cookies, make sure it's still inside of the if statement, and change CPS by 1. So now, if we show this checkbox, it says CPS 0, let's get 10 cookies by an auto clicker, and now our CPS is 1. But we're still not getting cookies every second, because we haven't coded that yet. Let's go over to, if you look over here, at the very right, next to the sprites panel, it has the backdrop. Now the backdrop is like a sprite, but it's just the background of your game. So you can have different backdrops. Let's just say we have a basketball backdrop. So then it has a basketball background. But you can actually put code in the backdrop. And it's good to put code in the backdrop when you're coding something that you want that shouldn't be, it's not really specific to any sprite. And our cookies per second isn't really specific to any sprite, so we're going to code that in the backdrop. So you can click on the backdrop, and then make sure you're on the code tab. Now we're going to do some simple coding to make sure that every second the player will be getting their cookies per second. So now, if we go to the Events tab, drag out a when green flag clicked, now we're going to use a new type of block, go to the Control tab, and drag out this forever loop. So what the forever loop will do is any code that you put inside of the forever loop will continue to run forever and ever and ever until you press the stop sign. Which is good in this case. We're going to drag out variables and make sure at the beginning of the game we reset our cookies per second to 0. So we're going to grab the set variable block, put it above the forever loop because we don't want to be constantly setting our cookies per second to 0. Change it to cookies per second and make sure it's set to 0. Now in the forever loop, we can grab a change variable block, and we want to change our cookies not by 1, by CPS. So now if we have 5 CPS, it'll change our cookies by 5. So let's try this out. But whoa, that is not what's supposed to happen. Now the reason that happens is because this code is never telling to wait until the next second. It's just running over and over and over and over and over, so you get an insane amount of cookies. So we can go back to the control tab and grab this wait 1 second block. So now, if we try again, we'll get 1 cookie every second. This is great. Now we have our first working upgrade. But you may notice we can't tell what the price of the auto clicker is. So let's go back over to our auto clicker button sprite, and over in our green flag clicked section, let's make it so it shows how much it will cost whenever you hover your mouse over the button. So we can do that by grabbing out a forever loop and place it under this one green flag clicked at the bottom. Now we're going to use another if statement, put that inside of the forever loop. Then we can go to the sensing block and grab this touching mouse pointer block. So any code that's inside of here will run if the mouse pointer is touching the button. So then we can go to the looks tab and grab out this say block. Make sure you're not using the one that says say for a certain amount of time. And we're going to go to operators and grab a join block. Join blocks, what they do is they put two pieces of text together. So let's say, look, the default is join apple and banana. So if you click on that to run it, it says apple banana. But we want it to say cost in the first half. And make sure you put a space after the word cost. Then go to variables, and we want it to say cost auto clicker price. So now if we hover over it, it'll say cost 10, but if we move our mouse away, it still shows. So let's drag this block out of our if statement, drag everything out, get rid of it. We don't want this. We can use what's called an if-else block. Now let's go back to our example with the rainy day situation. We can say if is raining equals yes, then we should grab the umbrella. But else, if it is not raining, that means it's sunny outside, so we should wear some sunglasses. So now, instead of just saying if it's raining, grab an umbrella, but if it's not raining, we don't grab an umbrella, it's if it is raining, we grab an umbrella. Otherwise, or else, we wear sunglasses. So that's how if-else blocks work. Okay, so let's go back to our forever loop, drag in an if-else block, then you can put the touching mouse pointer back into the if spot, and put our say block into the first half. Then we can go back to looks, grab another say block, and else just say nothing. So now, if we hover over our upgrade, it shows the cost, and then we move our mouse away, it doesn't show the cost. This is great. But in good games, the cost of the upgrades go up. So let's make it so the cost goes up every time you buy a new auto clicker. This is actually very simple. Let's go back to the auto clicker sprite, and just right here, and we're going to get a set auto clicker price to. Then let's go to operators, grab out a times block, it looks like a little star, and then go back to variables, grab auto clicker price times 2.2. So this will just multiply the price by 2.2 every time you buy a new auto clicker. You can mess around with this, see you can mess around with this number here, get it to a point where you feel like the price scaling is good for your game. But let's try it out. So let's get 10 cookies, buy an auto clicker, and now it costs 22 for our next auto clicker. So let's get that. But now it's 48.40006. You can't have a 0.40006 of a cookie. So we can go over to operators and grab out this round block. For now, I'll just set it out in the middle. Drag this whole times block and put it inside of the round block. Then put the round block back into the variable block. So now let's try this again. Let's get 10 cookies, buy an auto clicker, 22. Now it costs 48. It's a much better number. But our game is kind of boring with only one upgrade. Let's add some more. So, next to the auto clicker sprite, we have a better click button. Let's show that. You can see it's +1 cookie per click. Okay, let's add this upgrade. So let's change the size to 75. And we can let's put it at these same coordinates, 160, same x coordinate, so it's directly below it. So change this 32 to a 165, or whatever other number you use. Now let's just put it up a little so it's directly below. So 165.37. Okay. And now we want it to have the same upgrade code as our auto clicker. So what we can do for this is go over, drag this code into the sprites panel, hover over the better click button, and you'll see it copied the code over to the better click button. We'll see the same thing for when the sprite clicked. There we go. Now we have our two pieces of code in both sprites. Let's change the coordinates to match 165.37. And now we don't want to set the auto clicker price to 10. Set better click price. Let's make it 25. So then we don't want to say the cost of the auto clicker price, we want to say the cost of better click. And then replace these auto clicker prices with better click prices. Make sure you set better click price, not auto clicker price. And then this one is not changing the CPS by 1. It's changing the cookies per click by 1. So we can go in, click change CPS, and change it to CPC by 1. CPC stands for cookies per click. Now let's go back to the stage, the backdrop, and right above the forever loop, let's drag in another set variable block. We want to set our cookies per click to 1 when you start the game. Now go back over to the cookie, and instead of changing cookies by 1, we're going to change cookies by CPC. So now let's try this out. You can see the cost is 25. Let's get 25 cookies, and then buy it. And now you'll see we get 2 cookies per click. Let's just buy some auto clickers. And there, now we have a fully working game. Let's just add a couple more better upgrades, just for fun. So let's click on the super clicker button. Let's show it, change the size to 75%, X to 165, and then let's drag it under. Okay, that's a good position, 165, -14. Let's go back to the auto clicker button, and let's drag our code into the super click sprite. Let's set auto clicker price, change that to super clicker price. Let's change that everywhere else. And the super clicker changes your CPS by 5. Now let's make it cost a little more. Let's just set it to 100 cookies to start off. So now let's try our game out again. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to change the Y here. 165, -14. There. So now we have 3 upgrades. Let's just get some other ones first, make it easier to get 100 cookies. Alright, there we go, 100. Let's buy the super clicker, and there we go. Now we're getting 5 cookies per second. Let's buy an auto clicker, and we get 6. So there we go, we have 3 upgrades. Let's just add one more click power upgrade, and that will be the ultra click. And let's just set it to -65, and then the Y, 165 in the X. And we actually want to copy the code from the better click button, because that is a cookies per click upgrade, not a cookies per second upgrade, just like the ultra click. So we're going to copy the code over from the better click button to the ultra click button. Let's make sure the position is correct. And we want to set the ultra click price to 250. And let's replace everywhere else's better click price with ultra click price. And we want to make sure we're changing our cookies per click by 5, not 1. So let's try this out, our final upgrade. I'm actually just going to quickly cheat in some cookies. So you can just grab out a set variable block and change it to cookies. And then I'm just going to set my cookies to 250. Click on that, it'll change your cookies. Then just drag that block back out. And now we can buy the ultra click. You'll see we're getting 6 cookies every time we click because we started off with 1 and then we got 5 extra. So now we have a fully working game. Let's add some sounds to make it seem more fun. So the way sounds work in Scratch is each sprite has their own sounds in the Sounds tab, and each sprite comes defaultly loaded with the pop sound. It sounds just like this. And then you can play those sounds using the sound blocks. So whenever the sprite is clicked, we're going to start sound pop. So let's try it out. Alright, that's good. The sound plays every time we click the cookie. Now let's add some sounds when we buy upgrades. I added this buy sound to all of the upgrade buttons in the template. Sounds just like this. So now, whenever we buy our upgrades, right after we change the price, let's just add in the start sound buy block. And we'll do that to all 4 of our upgrade buttons. Let's just test how that sounds. So we can buy our upgrades. And there we go! We have a fully working cookie clicker game in Scratch. Now, this was just the beginner tutorial. If you stay tuned for next time for the intermediate tutorial, we'll learn how to make 2 effects when you click the cookie, one where cookies fall in the background, and one where cookies come off the cookie every time you click it. We will also add highlights to the upgrades so you can see when you can buy them, as well as pages to the shop so you can add even more upgrades to your game. And finally, the advanced tutorial, where we'll add a real text engine to the game, more advanced effects, auto-clickers that actually show up around the cookie and click on it, and scrolling to the shop so you don't have to click through pages. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you learned something with this tutorial. If you want me to keep making more Scratch tutorials, please like the video. And if you have any ideas or requests for tutorials for me to make, please let me know. I want to hear all of your ideas. Alright, see you next time. Bye.